Morning. Friday. Thursday. Right? Welcome back. Any announcements? Questions? Details? I've answered 4 questions on the D2L in the D2L discussion field. One had to do with the textbook. There are some supplemental materials that are available for you to use. I won't require you to use those, but if you want to log in, the textbook publisher puts out some supplemental materials, sample quizzes, sample speeches. There's some topic support resources that are available. And you can certainly use those. I don't require you to use those. I just require you to use the textbook and read the textbook and apply what you read in the textbook. So that was one of the questions on D2L. Another question had to do with the D2L navigation assignment, but I covered that in class. That was the question number 5. And I think the other question was, do we give our speeches in lab? Which is? Yes. Yes, of course. Intro speeches, me too. And how are they going? I've heard raving reports from your graduate teaching assistants, and so I'm very proud of them. They report enthusiastic voices, very creative items, a great collective audience. Elena, anything else? Any other burning comments that you would like to share?
They're pretty fantastic.
Pretty fantastic. Jeremy?
Yeah, they've been good. I've enjoyed getting to know the students even better through them.
Did you two have a chance to do the speech?
Yeah, I gave a sample the first week of lab.
Put it to them, guys. Have them do it to you. They're great. They're great. All right. So those are the questions that you had for D2L. What we are covering today, we're actually ahead of the game because this class, you've had a chance to meet 2 more times than any other class. So I'm going to talk a little bit about Chapter 13. I've been talking about the art of rhetoric and persuasion since we started to meet. But I am going to go ahead and start to introduce next week's chapter, which is researching your speech. And that's because we are going to start our library literacy sessions, and each lab is scheduled in a different room at a different time. And so my plan is to have your teaching assistants email out those specific dates and times that your lab meets in the library for a library literacy session. And what I'm going to do today is give you a little bit of reason why, justification as to why we schedule those library literacy sessions here so early in the semester, and why it is that you should go through and pay close attention and make great use of your time with our reference library. So that's what we're going to do today. I have a clicker quiz. It's kind of some feedback. I want to take a temperature check, if you will, of the class. And I want you to be very honest with me. I've included some questions that just go ahead and be brutally honest. I want to make sure that everything's going okay in class. And the speech of the day that I have for you is an informative speech entitled Cryonis. And I gotta tell you that this speech I had recorded, I had it uploaded to the main server on campus from a VHS tape. And I don't think that's old, but I don't know very many people that play VHS tapes anymore. So it's just an oldie but a goodie. And so I think that you'll enjoy it. And it'll be good fodder for our in-class speech criticism today. And I have 3 quiz questions developed around that speech. And so that's what we'll do today. Now don't forget that your D2L navigation assignment is due by tomorrow at 5 o'clock. And I've looked, and most of you have that assignment done, and most of you have fixed item number 5 if you thought that was incorrect. Good for you. And so your lab instructors will be grading those. You've given them good work for the weekend, right? And your introductory speeches, if you haven't given those this week, They are most likely occurring next week. And also oh yeah, quiz 1. Now, you can take the D2L quiz if you'd like. If you attempt any quiz whatsoever, a clicker quiz or a D2L quiz this week, I will give you full credit. This week is pass fail. That won't always happen. So if you want to see what a D2L quiz looks like, you can start it, and if you think, oh, this isn't for me, you don't have to finish it if you know that you've clicked in. Ideally, I would have had a participant list run by today, but I wasn't able to get those names run. Drop an ad period, as you know, ended yesterday. So by Tuesday, I should be able to see a complete participant list, which means you'll be able to see and confirm that your clicker is working. So you want to be on your honor system on that. Next week is we get really into our persuasive speaking unit. And we start by asking you to submit 3 topics. 3 topics, and not just 3 topics. And you're going to submit these to in the Dropbox to your lab instructor. But 3 topics with a paragraph justification as to why you want to speak on that particular topic. 3 persuasive topics that would be of interest to you, of interest to your gathered audience and your instructor and your lab teams, and appropriate for the context of the speech. Now, it's a 4 to 6 minute speech. It's not very long. And I want you to showcase your scholarly research ability. And you're going to understand what I mean by that after I talk about researching the speech here today. And so 3 topics submitted to the D2L Dropbox next Friday. All your assignments will be due Friday by 5 with about a paragraph justification of each. Now, a paragraph to me is about 8 to 10 sentences, roughly 100 to 120 words. Is that fair, Elena?
Yeah, 100, 120 word limit.
What's that? There's an 80 to 100 word limit, isn't there? Is there a word limit? We have that. Okay, there is an assignment description that will be posted through D2L with complete instructions. And then 3 topics, 3 paragraphs.
There is a word limit.
I
Per
thought
one.
there was a word, 80 to 100 words. Now that
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I do know. That will be due next week, and then your library literacy sessions may occur next week, or they may occur in week 4, depending on how the schedule is organized. And you should look for an email from your instructor over the weekend. The annotated bibliography assignment is what accompanies your library literacy sessions, and this will help you for your speech in that you are required to complete an annotated bibliography for both the persuasive speech, the upcoming persuasive speech, and your group advocacy speech. In the notes, you'll see that I embedded, so if you clicked on the annotated bibliography assignment from the PowerPoint, that's going to take you to the IDWeek's homepage. And remember how to get to our SpeechCon 101 page. You click on the research guide, and you can either type communication in here, or you can go to the LibGuides home. And this is, you should get to know how to use this because this will help with your topic selection as well. Click on that, and it should take you to that page, our communication page. And at the very bottom should be the SpeechCon 101 support page. Come on. I told a few of you I was flying by the seat of my pants and my ankle length today. I don't know where that's being.
Campus network, maybe?
Is this a network, you think?
I had a few issues when I came in early in the morning.
Is there a better way?
Well, go back. Go back onto the previous page. Type in SPCM 101 under the research guides. Right there.
You can also type in communication. It'll take
Yeah.
you to that page. It will work though when you click on the LibGuides. I was just there the other day. Remember this, I shared this with you in class the other day. The annotated bibliography is the tab that you will use prior to your library session. And I say that prior to because there are 2 brief articles that I want you to read, okay? They're listed here. They're listed by title only, strategically, so that you need to find those through the research database. You can help each other out. You can share how you find those articles, that's fine. But locate these 2 articles. I think the copy-paste, the plagiarism article entitled Copy-Paste Steal is 2.5 pages. And the nonverbal article entitled First Impressions Really Matter is 4 to 5 pages. But both are pretty interesting reads. They're quick reads. And there are 5 questions that you need to be able to answer prior to your library literacy session. Okay, it's not going to be graded, but you need to contribute to a group setting. You're going to be working in groups in that library literacy session. And everyone needs to literally be on the same page.
And Alan does give good instructions on the first document listed there on how to find those articles. He gives good instructions how to navigate.
They need to read these articles prior to the library literacy session.
No, how to find those articles to read them. The instructions in the first document are how to navigate the system.
Okay, well, I'm going to say too. You can go to Academic Search Premier and type in the title or the author. And if you have trouble with a research database, if you cannot locate those articles, find myself or Jeremy or Elaine and we'll help you. We'll walk you through that process. Stay after lecture, whatever you need. But read those 2 articles prior to your library literacy session. Okay. So any questions on that? Carolyn, take just a little bit of a temperature check and see what you think of the class so far. I want you to put your clickers. I'm using this for attendance as well. If you would, from your viewpoint, my introductory speech experience was A, great, B, average, C, not as bad as I anticipated, or D, terrible. How was your introductory speech experience? Was it A, great, B, average? What if you have a D? And you don't have to answer this question. How many have not given us speeches? Quite a few of these. Okay. I take it you folks are Monday lab meetings, am I right? And you give yours tomorrow, Friday. Okay, Monday or Friday lab. Good. 16% of you said great. Most of you said average. Not as bad as I anticipated, and terrible. Huh. All right. Okay, moving on. True or false? I anticipate this class to be worthwhile and a great addition to my liberal arts experience. Well, that might be a leading question. Answer it truthfully. I believe this class will be worthwhile and a great addition to my liberal arts education. And the reason why I ask you that now is that in a traditional college class, this type of question is asked in week 16. And while that's a good thing, I could do nothing about your experience in week 16. Does that make sense? Good. Okay, so the 20% of you, what can we do? What can we do to make it worthwhile? Not have to take speech 101. Well, it is a core requirement. You have to take it. The Board of Regents endorses it and deems it mandatory that you learn how to speak even more effectively and become critical evaluators of messages. But what else can we do? What could we do to make it even more worthwhile? Is there anything? You can think about that. I want to know. I want to know. I consider myself very student-centered, so I know. All right, true or false? I had an article that was uplifting of Romney, and so then I want to show you that I'm not going to be partisan in any way, and so I'm going to put George Bush up here and scratch my side. True or false? 1 for true, 2 for false. I understand the syllabus and the requirements of the course. And the reason why I put that, I had about 12 questions of people saying, what? What is the schedule? The schedule is on the syllabus. So you need to download the schedule or the syllabus and read the schedule and understand what is expected. And maybe I have to close it before I can show the results. Okay, what is a little bit ambiguous? Someone speak out. I won't kick you out. I won't ask you to stand up, shout it out, have your neighbor shout it out. What needs to be more clear?
Where on the DTL do you find your class?
Okay.
Through DTL, or is it through the modules?
Okay, that's a good question. The question is, where on D2L do you find the class? Okay, so I want to see if this is consistent with what you see right here. I'll just walk you through how I log into D2L. Tell me if this is how you see it. I go to d2l.sdvor.edu. Now I've also saved the passwords through the portal, but if I do that, then you don't see the long way of how I get there. So you can go through the portal and save your credentials and your passwords and log in that way. Or you can go through d2l.sdvor.edu. Or you can use Tim from the class and your username be on the internet. I have saved my password, that's problematic. Okay, so is this what you see? Do you see your courses? There should be new, do you have a news tab up here and a My Courses? If I were a student, I would see courses like this, and they call this the Sandbox. And every course at the University of South Dakota is assigned a D2L page, and it's up to the instructor whether they activate the course. This course is active in D2L. It should be showing up in your Sandbox. So do you see that?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so you click on that link. So now you're good?
Yeah.
Okay. That's a good question. Any other questions? Any other ambiguous things about the class? Yep.
Where do you find reading?
Okay. Where do you find the reading? Where do you find, this is the course homepage. So any announcements might be posted here. I put some shortcuts here on the left about the clicker. I put a D2L help guide. I put a link to the syllabus. Here is the content that you'll see, and I put a duplicate syllabus here, and then also those clicker channel settings and how to register the clicker. I'll post the assignment descriptions through the content and the class notes, and you'll see that I have notes up that I've shared in class for week 1 and week 2. The readings will be found on the course schedule of the syllabus. And I told you when we started, this class is ahead of the game. We've had more class meetings. So I'm going to, hang on, I'm taking for a ride. We're going to really quickly. The course schedule, the assignments, and the course schedule. You'll see that for the first week we talked about chapters 1 and 7. The second week here we talked about 1, 7, and we've added 13, talking about persuasion. Next week we're adding, talking about research. Okay? And you'll see what will be assigned each week and then what will be due. Does that make sense?
Yep.
How you can also be assured of what is due and what you need to turn in is to verify that with me or your lab instructor, and also look at the due dates on the Dropbox. This is where you submit things like the D2L navigation assignment, the outline. No, these are the rubrics that you uploaded for your speeches here. and there will be more drop boxes added as we progress through the semester. I didn't want that to be information overload with that D2L navigation assignment. You know, you put something in these 4 boxes, these drop boxes. I had a young lady ask me, why is there a late D2L navigation assignment? And if you remember right, this is how I manage 500 101 students. You can turn in an assignment late. It's just that you have to turn it here, and it's worth 50% of the original value. Actually, I think there's a graduated scale. It's worth 10%. You can have a 10% deduction for the first 4 days, and then it's worth 50%. But when you submit something into the Dropbox, it is timestamped, and so it's very black and white in terms of when you submit it. And if you submit it on time, you submit into the Dropbox.
That's 10% for every 24 hours after the original due date, up to 50%.
Yeah. We had to account for all the technicalities in managing so many filters. The quizzes are available through the quiz tab. There are 10 quizzes. And then you can also see who is in this particular session, this lecture session, by looking at the class list. And the green dot means they're online, so you could chat with that person. So if you need to reach out to a classmate, you can do that too. You're shaking your head. Are you okay? Okay. Your grades can be tracked here through the grades tab. Okay, this is going to show everything. Sorry, I'm going to go to my grades really quick. There we go. Your absences will be recorded here 2 times during the semester, but we'll be able to track your absences with you at any time. We keep a running tab on your attendance. And of course, all of the other assignments for the class. Does that make it more clear? Good. No problem. Anything else about the class that is unclear? Syllabus, assignments? You understand that you attend 2 lectures and a lab? I'm not giggling on here. So this is new. This is new to some people, so I know that. Okay. The next quiz question I'm just going to look at. Don't answer these. I'm going to keep the polling closed, but think about them because they have to do with our speech criticism that we'll do in class. The general purpose of the sample speech is to what? Is it to persuade, to inform, to entertain, the one of the 3. Oops, I went back. The introductory strategy that this speaker used was it anecdotal, statistical, a quote, or direct questioning. You can read about that in your book. We haven't encountered that information, but it's important. And it's important because as I was looking at a few of the introductory speeches, I realized that you need that kind of support. We need to support how you strategize your introduction and your conclusion. Remember how I was saying that, a couple of class periods ago, do more than say, well, that's it, that was my speech. And so this speaker, this is a good chance, this is a teachable moment to reflect on strategizing this introduction. True or false, this speech was invented using a simple internet search. And you might infer that that's going to be false. And I want to know why. I want you to kind of take some notes and tell me how Jane is her name, prepared to speak on the topic of cryonics and how she apportioned or developed and divided her material among the main points and the content and the body of her speech. Okay? So with that, I'm going to close this. Oh, you guys are still waiting. Hang on. I want to share with you this sample speech that I have for today. Am I dating myself? Do you know who these guys are? Yes. Okay. All right. Like I said, this is a link to the speech. It's about 7.5 minutes long. I want you to listen to.
The time is now. Imagine your mother and father.
Hold on, G. Hold on. I want you to listen to this speech and tell me the general purpose of the speech. I'd like you to tell me how the speaker strategized her introduction and her conclusion, she has showcased herself as a research scholar and cite some of the supporting material that she is using. The supporting material that we know of as evidence, direct observation, experience, statistics, testimony, personal and factual. You don't have to have those specific labels yet, but just take a critical look at what she's included. What's that? Yeah, and how she showcased herself for research, for scholarly research ability. Don't worry, I will walk you through this. Okay, and be able to tell me the very first words out of her mouth, which are not, today I'm giving you an informative speech on cryonics. Not.
The time is now. Imagine your mother or father has suffered a heart attack. Deprived of its vital blood supply, a part of their heart is dying. Or imagine your grandmother or grandfather lying nearly motionless in their nursing home bed. Advanced age complicated by pneumonia is about to end their lives. Or imagine a close friend has just entered the hospital with a massive system-wide infection. AIDS has left their body ravaged by multiple diseases. For most people, these circumstances would herald the end of life. Today's medicine can no longer help them. But all of you may be able to meet again in the far future. Does this sound like science fiction? Perhaps. But it may one day be possible. How? Through the process of cryonics. Cryonics is the process of freezing human beings after death in the hope that medical science will be able to revive them in the future. Intrigued by the prospect of being cryonically frozen, I've spent some time researching the subject of cryonics. After reading dozens of newspaper and magazine articles, I would like to give you a brief overview of the history, methods, and future of cryonics. Let's start with the development of cryonics. Although the idea of freezing people is a new idea, the notion of preserving them is old. In the 1770s, for example, Ben Franklin wrote that he wanted to be immersed in a cask of Madeira wine till that time when he could be recalled to life. It was not to be, but Franklin's dream, at least, lived on to be revived in our time as cryonics. Cryonics has been a staple of science fiction novels, the plot device in numerous movies such as Austin Powers and Sleepers, and the subject of countless newspaper and magazine articles. Until 1964, however, cryonics remained firmly in the realm of fiction. It was at this time that physics professor Robert Ettinger argued in the book The Prospect of Immortality that cryonics was indeed possible. 3 years later, January 12, 1967, 73-year-old James H. Bedford became the first human being to be frozen. Ever since Bedford was frozen, cryonics has steadily increased in popularity. Currently, there are 4 cryonic institutions in the United States, 2 in California and 1 each in Michigan and Arizona. So far, 80 people have already been frozen from around the world, and another estimated 800 have signed up to be frozen when they die. They remain frozen in a state of suspended animation, perhaps for centuries, in the hope that medical science will be able to revive them in the future, at a time when cures exist for virtually all of today's diseases, and when restoration to full function and health is possible. So you're probably wondering, how will they do it? How does cryonics work? Currently, when a person who has signed up to be cryonically suspended dies, a specific procedure, which was outlined in the book Cryonics Reaching for Eternity, must be carried out. First, before death, an individual must decide whether to have the entire body frozen or just the head. If the whole body is to be frozen, it must be preserved upon death, immediately after death, ideally within a matter of minutes. The patient is connected to a heart-lung machine, and chemicals such as glucose and heparin are circulated with the oxygenated blood to help minimize the freezing damage. At the same time, the patient's internal temperature is reduced as quickly as possible using cold packs. If only the head will be frozen, a slightly different procedure must be carried out. The head must be surgically detached from the rest of the body and preserved in a separate container. You may be wondering, why would I only preserve my head? The answer is, with some diseases, the body is left in a very poor condition. If this is the case and you choose only to preserve your head, you do so with the belief that medical science will be able to create a healthy new body for you in the future. Once the head or body is ready for freezing, a liquid called cryoprotectant, which works as an antifreeze of sorts to help prevent cell damage, is circulated through the body or head. Over a 20-day period, the patient is prepared for long-term storage by cooling the body or head to a temperature of 320 degrees Fahrenheit. When this temperature is reached, the patient is stored in a steel cylinder of nitrogen. According to an article in Omni magazine, at this temperature, biological function ceases and the patient will remain unchanged for hundreds of years. Now that we've explored the development of cryonics and how the freezing process works, you may wonder about questions such as how much it costs and whether people that are frozen can really be rethawed. According to an article in Fortune magazine, the cost of cryonic suspension ranges from $60,000 to $125,000. It can be creatively paid for by making the cryonic institution the beneficiary on your life insurance policy. These costs may seem rather steep, but as one cryonics member states, facing my own mortality turned out to be much harder than coming up with cash to pay for the life insurance premiums. The cost is not the only issue. Even if you can afford the cost of being cryonically frozen, scientists have not yet worked out all the details involved with freezing and rethawing. As explained by New Scientist magazine, the problem is that the freezing process itself inflicts a crippling amount of cellular damage by dehydrating cells and puncturing their delicate membranes. So far, there are only a few types of human tissue that can be successfully frozen and rethawed, including sperm, embryos, and bone marrow, which contain relatively few cells. It is not yet possible to freeze and rethaw complicated organs such as the heart or liver, not to mention a complete body or brain. What scientists need is a procedure that will allow them to reduce the damage inflicted by the freezing process. And in fact, scientists are currently working on this procedure. Research is being done in the hope of finding better cryoprotectants or antifreezes, which will reduce the cell damage caused by freezing. According to the book, Cryonics Reaching for Tomorrow, scientists are also developing microscopic machines that are capable of repairing cells at the molecular level. These machines might one day make it possible to repair the cell damage caused by the freezing process and thus bring frozen patients back to full life. But until that time, the people that are already frozen will have to remain in their current state of suspended animation in the hopes that science will one day work out solutions to the problems involved with freezing and rethawing. In closing, we have seen that cryonics is much more than a plot in a science fiction novel. It has developed from a wholly unrealistic fantasy to the point that 80 people have already been frozen, and hundreds more have made the choice to be cryonically frozen when they die. If scientists can ever figure out how to freeze and rethaw people successfully, you can be sure that cryonics will become much more popular. So think again of your father or mother suffering a heart attack, your grandmother or grandfather dying of pneumonia, or your close friends stricken with AIDS. If they chose to be buried or cremated in traditional fashion, their physical minds and bodies would be destroyed. That is absolutely certain. By contrast, being cryonically frozen offers some small chance that they may be revived in the future. Even if this chance is small, it is more than no chance at all.
Okay. I told you, it was a bit dated. You knew that from the pop culture references, right? Austin Powers. What were the other? There was one more pop culture reference. Sleepers, right. So that puts this about 1990, 89, 91?
97.
Oh,
Austin Powers was like 97. I was in high school.
okay. So, what type of speech was this? What is the general purpose of this speech? A, to persuade, B, to inform, C, to entertain, D, a blend of two or more above. Some of you think it was to persuade. Some of you think it was to inform. A few of you think it was to entertain. And a large majority of you think it was a blend. A blend of what? Of which two? Or the three? Is it a blend of all three? I don't mean to have this as a trick question. And I said to you in one of our first meetings that every time you stand in front of an audience, you exert some sort of influence. And so I can see how you would think that would be to persuade. the overall intention to me wasn't an overt, persuasive message. But I can see how you could argue that point, that, you know, she, by way of speaking about and in the manner in which she organized the material, she spoke on behalf of cryonics, right? So that argument could be made. And I can see how many of you are going back and forth between an informational speech and certainly there was an entertainment value as that. We saw that jump from 1 to 5% here. And so I think it could be, it could be a fair argument that it might be a blend of 2 or more of these purposes. Okay? And so there really isn't a right or wrong answer for that question, but I wanted to walk you through the justification on that. Okay, you can quit changing your minds. Okay, hold on. Now, this speech, the introductory strategy and, conveniently, the concluding strategy were the same, right? Was what? Anecdotal, statistical, use of a quote in the introduction or conclusion, or direct questioning. As soon as it gets 100, I'll show this thing. She did not direct question. A direct question elicits a response from an audience. What type of question? What type of question do you pose to an audience where you don't expect an answer? Rhetorical question, right? I was just giving an example of a direct question. There you go. So that's a learning, that's a teachable. Anecdotal, did I spell that right? Did I spell it right, Jeremy?
I can look it up.
It looks a little, now I'm a little scared of it. I should have put narrative, right? It's the use of a story. And what story did Jane tell in her introduction and her conclusion? Yeah, imagine your grandmother, grandfather, lying there motionless. And she did so. She didn't just tell any old story. She told kind of a story full of emotion. One that asked you to step in, hypothetical narrative, asking you to step in her shoes or the shoes of those experiencing this idea of cryonics. And then she strategized that in that she sandwiched her content, her body of content, by revisiting the same story, right? Isn't that a beautiful thing? She provides that psychological closure. She says in closing, but she starts to revisit that. She goes, so once again, think once again. You know, and that's a very strategic, that's a very effective way of organizing introduction or a conclusion. I don't think I heard any statistics in the introduction. I could be wrong. Okay, did she? Okay. So, okay. All right.
You got it spelled right.
Here. True or false? This speech was invented using a simple, shameless internet search. And the answer is there's going to be a few scenario election. I told you 10% of you want to be deviant. I know I'm kind of a deviant myself. So, but you know what? It's largely false. And what type of supporting material did she use? What type of outside sources did she use? Books, magazines? A quote, I love that quote from Benjamin Franklin. My choice would be Merlot, but whatever, Madeira is fine. She showcased that array of source work early on, and that can be very strategic as well. That can be very strategic in establishing your credibility as a speaker. Does anyone remember the line? If you remember the line, you can get up and walk out of here and go get yourself lunch early. What did she say to establish her credibility early on? I'm serious, you can leave, because you've got it. You've got this down pat. Who's got it? This gal in the back. Raise your hand.
Time is now.
Okay, those were the first words out of her mouth.
Yeah. You said something about, according to this book, the process goes in this way.
She did, but how did she establish her ethos, her credibility right away? How did she showcase to her audience that she was prepared to speak on cryonics?
like researched multiple research.
Don't give yourself lunch. Yes! Seriously, you can say if you want. She said after reading dozens of articles and the book Cryonics Reaching for Tomorrow, is that what she said? And that can build a strong initial credibility. Initial credibility is the credibility that you hold before you really start to speak for her audience, because they could trust that she didn't just the night before gather an open source type of Wikipedia documents and throw this together. That she took time and she showcased that throughout her speech, how she apportioned or divided that material. She said, according to an Omni article, Omni magazine, New Scientist, she quoted the book Cryonics Reaching for Tomorrow, and another book. There were 2 books, I believe, that she quoted. And that's what you need to do. You need to showcase to yourself, through your lab meetings, your course peers, and your lab instructor, that you have the ability to gather these sources and use them to build your ideas and expand your main points. Now, her superstructure, and when I say superstructure, her intro, her body, her conclusion was pretty simple, right? What were the 3 main points of this speech? What were the 3 main points of the speech? Nice, yeah, the history, the methods, and the future of cryonics. And she did so, her nonverbals were a little bit jagged, weren't they? But she said the history, the methods, and the future of cryonics. But it was easy to understand and remember that way, wasn't it? Yeah, so she was able to elaborate and showcase her research skills, and all the while going back to this kind of simplistic superstructure. She also did something, I'm losing, I know you want to get to lunch, so I'm just going to say this. I think that she did a nice job of transitioning. We'll talk about that. She said, you might be wondering, and you might be wondering when I'm going to let you go to lunch.